Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namashrishnam Manumapi Satchiputram Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasya Grajamurupurim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Maho Radhikamadhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tamyatusmi Vancha Kalpataru Vyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishvavanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Preman Hari Hari Bol. Pranam to all of you. Good evening. Welcome. Thanks so much for your presence. And thank you, Happy Prabhu, for the beautiful kirtan. We're happy to have you here with us and each one of you as well. So today we want to share a few thoughts about the topic of a recent book I published a few months ago. It's no longer that recent, but by the very nature of the topic, it must be recent because it speaks about the ever-evolving nature of reality and the ever-evolving nature of the divine, Krishna, Mahaprabhu. The ever-newness of God. In Sanskrit, one word for new is Nava. So we are in Navadvip, which means 9 islands, but Nava also means new, a place where everything is new, everything is fresh. As Avi Prabhu was doing kirtan with all of us, I was thinking, of course, we always sing the quote-unquote same mantra, but it's never the same. I remember some years ago we were in Argentina, where I'm from, and we actually were recording an album, a kirtan album, and it was basically Mahamantra 90% of the album. So I invited a tabla player, friend of us. He's not a Gaudiya Vaishnava, but he's familiar with the tradition. So he made the joke, nice joke, but important point. He said, we have to edit one part of the album. Which part? That part which says Hare Krishna. Like there's one part there that we need to adjust something. Which that moment that says the whole album says Hare Krishna. So we're both laughing, but at the same time laughing in the way that the whole album, the lyric of the whole album is the same, but we don't get tired of it. So can I ask you a copy of Evolution in Divine Love? I want to share something from it. Sorry. I actually the main inspiration for or one of the main inspirations for writing this book was one quote that thank you, Hriday, that I happened to read from Srila Prabhupada in The Nectar of Devotion, and I included in the introduction of the book. So I'd like to share it with you, and we can elaborate a little bit from it. So Srila Prabhupada says in Nectar of Devotion, and it's connected to the experience in Kirtan just now, singing the same name, which is never the same. Right? God's name is always chanted by millions of devotees, but those devotees never become saturated. Instead of becoming disinterested in thinking of God and in chanting His holy name, the devotees get newer and newer impetus to continue the process. Therefore, Krishna and His name, fame, qualities, and everything in relationship with Him is ever fresh. So that's kind of one of the many seeds that somehow gave shape to this particular attempt of offering called Evolution in Divine Love, the Eternal Becoming of God, Soul, and Matter. So Prabhupada here makes a very interesting point. He's saying, again, millions, uncountable devotees are singing the names of God. They are never getting tired of it. On the contrary, they gain newer taste, newer impetus. As Mahaprabhu describes the symptoms of engaging in Krishna Sankirtan, he will say, Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnam Brita Shradanam, among other symptoms. Anandam Buddhivardhanam, the ocean of Ananda overflows, expands. And Pratipadam Purna Amrita Ashradanam. At every step, one relishes the totality of the nectar of immortality. You cannot get more poetic than that. Right? At every step, you relish the nectar of immortality, the totality of the nectar of immortality. Purna Amrita Ashradana. So that's how Mahaprabhu is trying to find words to say what it means to chant the name of Krishna. And chanting the name of Krishna is not a mechanical act, but it's the organic development of our relationship with the sweet absolute. Because between Krishna and the name, there is no difference. Abhinatvam namanaminu. So I can see where's my relationship with the divine by seeing one of the ways. How is my relationship with the name going? So the name is ever fresh. And what Prabhupada says here that impacted me especially, saying not only the name of Krishna is ever new, ever fresh, his form is ever new, ever fresh, his qualities, his lila. But at one point he says, and everything in relationship to him is ever fresh. So I remember first time I was reading, I mentioned that in the book. I was in New Zealand. Patrak was nearby there. And I was in Patrak's house, so he's to blame in part for this book. I was in his dome in New Zealand. And there was rain and there were some thunderbolts. And when I read this particular line, there's literally a thunderbolt on the outside, and it's a thunderbolt on the inside. When I read the part that Prabhupada says, and everything in relationship to Krishna is ever fresh. Because the thunderbolt was, okay, what's everything in relationship to Krishna? Everything. Everything in relationship to Krishna is everything. There's nothing that is not in relationship to Krishna. So everything is ever fresh in its own unique way. Love, God, the soul, even the material energy. That sometimes we may seem that is inert, but if you bring a good enough telescope, you see there's always something going on there. There's movement. There's God dancing in every atom. Brahma Samhita is saying that Krishna is in every atom. There is dance going on in every atom. There is a dance party thrown in every atom. There's music in every atom. There's vibration, there is frequency. We can speak in scientific terms, frequency and vibration in every atom. We will say song and dance in every atom, basically. Because the source of everything is moving. And as we were saying today in the morning, we were sharing some words about Nityananda Prabhu, because today we visited Nandanacharya Bhavan, the meeting place of Sri Chaitanya Deva and Nityananda Prabhu in Mayapur, their first meeting in this earthly lila. And we were saying how we're speaking about the word movement. Sometimes we use the word the Sankirtan movement, Krishna consciousness movement, this movement, that movement. But many times we associate the word movement with something that is not very moving. Right? But the word movement implies movement. Right? By definition, you cannot escape from the word. Movement means something must be moving, something must be alive. So no matter which form a movement takes, it has always to be evolving, growing, moving. That's how this movement began, with Mahaprabhu wanting to taste the heart of Sri Radha. That's the main purpose for the descent of Sri Chaitanya, right? He's curious about what's going on in the heart of Radha. What's the happiness she derives? What's the glory of her love? What's the beauty she perceives in me? And he experiences all that, and that starts to move him internally, deeply, profuse tears coming. And that internal movement makes him move in an external way. He starts to dance and move. And other people witness that movement, and they are moved internally. And they start to move externally. And then you have a sequence of movements that at one point in history becomes officially labeled as the Krishna consciousness movement. And there are institutions, there are buildings, and that's totally fine with all that. But it all began by a movement very deep inside the heart of God himself, in the form of Mahaprabhu. So if we are part of a movement, we are invited to move. And not only externally, but our external movements have to come from something that is moving us internally. Even moving us to the point of tears. That's how it happened to Mahaprabhu. He was moved to the point of tears, to the point of fainting, to the point of melting. And he will melt everything around him. That was the epidemic he created. We are all here a byproduct of that. So we are blessed by that movement. But the premise basically is, as Prabhupada said, everything, God is ever fresh, everything in connection to God is ever fresh. And everything that exists in connection to God. That's sambandha in Sanskrit, sambandha. Everything exists interconnected, in relationship. We are all about relationship. So, to me, this idea is, and I pray continues to be fascinating. The idea of we worship, I don't like even much the word worship, we adore. I like that word more. It's more like when you say, oh, he's adorable. That's the type of intimacy we want to have with the divine. We adore a God that is in constant evolution and growth. That's paradoxical, because many times we think God is perfect and complete. So he cannot grow, he cannot become more sweet, more beautiful. But if we say he cannot do that, then we are imposing some problematic limitations on the Absolute. And our tradition confirms that Krishna is expanding and growing, interestingly. One of the main words in our tradition for the Absolute, in a more generic way, you find in the Upanishads the word Brahman. And it's funny because many of us, we say Brahman means immovable, impersonal, not much fun over there. But the Brahman is a generic word, can be applied to Krishna also. In the Bhagavatam, Krishna is called Purna Brahman. Brahma is praying, Aho Bhagyam, Nanda Gopa Brajo Kasham, Janmitram Paramanandam Purna Brahman Sanatanam. Krishna is the complete Brahman. And Brahman comes from the root Brim, which means, I can make a play of words here in English, right? Brahman comes from the Sanskrit root Brim, which can mean what in English we'll say brim, brimming over. Something that grows and makes others grow. That's the actual meaning of Brahman. He or she or it, which grows and makes others grow. That entity that is in constant growth and expansion and evolution. So Krishna is becoming more attractive at every moment. Chaitanya Charitamrita confirms that. Krishna is known as Krishna. Krishna means the all attractive, and the all attractive is constantly becoming more attractive. Stay with that for a moment. Now, the all attractive doesn't mean he became so attractive that he cannot become more attractive. That's limitation. Krishna is super attractive and he becomes even more super attractive, and there's no limit to his super attractiveness. Ongoing expansion. So my point with all this, and that's kind of the main theme and exploration on evolution in divine love, is that if we are trying to adore a divine who is in constant growth and expansion, we are invited to that same journey. The journey of spiritual life is not going from point A to point B, and once I reach point B, I got my retirement payment in eternity, and there's nothing else to discover, to experience, to explore. That's, at least for me, that's boring. I don't want to an eternity when there is no surprise and amazement and astonishment and unpredictability and newer experience. And in our tradition, that's the name of the very name that we give to the spiritual world, shows that there's something always going on. Vaikuntha, one word, means without limitations. So if I say in the spiritual world, you reach there, you get there, there's nothing else to experience, that's a limitation. Vaikuntha. Braj means to move, that which moves, to go. So it's a constant movement, a constant growth. And I'm saying all this especially here in Navadvip because, again, we are in the land of Sri Chaitanya. And as we briefly mentioned, Sri Chaitanya is none other than Krishna. Radha Bhava Tyuti Subalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam. Is Krishna exploring the mood of Radha, exploring the heart of Radha. It's Krishna in his most, I would like to say, introspective moments, curious moments. It's God himself showing that there is something else that can be known and discovered, interestingly. Because that's the whole basis for Gaur Lila. Gaur Lila is Krishna in Vrindavan, seeing the love of Radha and the gopis and saying, what are they experiencing? I don't know. I like to experience that. Or Krishna saying, oh, the love of the gopis to me is so incredible that I feel I cannot repay back. So we have an indebted God. These are very interesting, counterintuitive ideas of the divine. An indebted God. Napariham nirabadya sanjayam. Krishna says in the Bhagavatam, in the height of the Bhagavatam, he says to Sri Radha and the gopis, I cannot repay back your love. While in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Jayatmam prapadyanti tamstataiva bhajamya. According to how you give to me, I reciprocate accordingly. That's Bhagavad Gita. But when we go to the Bhagavatam, we find another reality. Krishna contradicts himself from what he said in the Bhagavad Gita, so to say, contradicts. To the general population of devotees, yeah, according to how you give to me, I reciprocate accordingly. But to the level of love from the gopis and Radha, he says, that verse from the Gita does not apply here. I'm indebted. He has no problem in proclaiming that openly. I'm indebted for eternity. So Mahaprabhu is Krishna trying to pay back that debt, but discovering that the more he tries to pay back that debt, the debt keeps increasing. That's the nature of love. Because whatever Krishna tries to offer back to Radha and the gopis, they immediately put that in service back to him. So he finds himself in a new level of debt. The depth of love, again, it's a level in the depth, as we were talking yesterday with Krishna Kshetra Maharaj, who were sharing. It's a depth or an indebtedness that includes deep gratitude. So as long as there is gratitude, it's okay. Krishna's indebted, but he's so grateful for the love he's receiving. And though all of this is ever evolving, the depth is ever evolving, the gratitude is ever evolving. And Krishna is inviting us to live such a journey with him. Spiritual life is not a boring journey, something formulaic, something that we do copy paste on something and automatically we are there. Is something organic, something that invites us to participate with our full will. It's a voluntary act. Love is a voluntary act. I know that sounds scary sometimes. When we are given the choice, when we are given the freedom, sometimes that we can feel the weight of being an individual. Like Krishna speaking the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, and at the end he says to Arjuna, okay, I've spoken all of this to you, now you decide what you want to do. Some of us will like that verse is edited out of the Bhagavad Gita. I have to decide what to do with my life. But that's the nature of love. We have to choose voluntarily to do that. As Krishna is choosing voluntarily to love us, which is an important point that I try to make in this book also. We are already loved by Krishna. Did you know that? Just in case. So the journey of bhakti is not a journey to become pure, perfect, immaculate, transcendental. So finally Krishna likes us. It's not a desperate effort to earn and deserve God's love. Krishna's love is already given. So we practice bhakti to return the love back to him. That just sounds a slight difference, but that makes a big difference, at least for me in orientation. I'm not chanting my daily japa or doing whatever I do daily, trying to impress Krishna so he finally likes me a little bit. I know deep down in my heart, I'm already fully, infinitely loved by Krishna. So whatever I do is out of the gratitude that I'm being loved without me having done anything to deserve that. And there's so much gratitude and joy that I just try to return the embrace, try to give the love back somehow. But if we are trying to give back love, it's because love has been extended to us to begin with. But again, not something that we can deserve. The word deserving doesn't compute with the word love or grace or mercy, as we were talking today in the morning. The very nature of grace is, I'm creating new words here, but it's undeservable, right? The more merit we try to acquire to deserve grace and mercy, in one sense, the more disqualified we become. Because it's not about deserving. Deserving is more an ego game. The humble game of love is accepting defeat. No, at the feet of love, and saying, I do not deserve this, but I need that urgently and deeply. So that's the love of Bhagavan, that's the love of Krishna. Krishna is loving us eternally, infinitely, and the nature of love is ever evolving. So I know this is hard, it sounds too good to be true. Try to imagine this. Krishna already loves you, and since the nature of love is ever evolving, Krishna loves you every moment. He loves you more than the previous moment. It's difficult to even imagine because generally we don't have that experience of someone who loves us unconditionally to begin with, fully, and at every passing moment that love is increasing. And many times without us doing anything to justify that. But it's just the nature of the other person. It's too much. Because unconditional love is too much. Krishna is too much, in the good sense of the term. Remember this song by George Harrison, which title is It's All Too Much. In the good sense. It's all too much, like overwhelming. So it's important, in my opinion at least, that each one of us who are aspiring to lead a spiritual life, hopefully we can try to practice, to live our life from that place of it's all too much, like deep gratitude, deep appreciation of the, as Prabhupada would say, the matchless gifts that are knocking on our door on a daily basis. And I can try to return the embrace. We won't be lazy. We will try to give back, to give ourselves in love, but still, it's all too much. and that's why Sanatana Goswami says that love and humility are cause and effect of each other. So the more love you receive, the more humble you become. Because you know that this is coming without me doing anything to deserve it. So that's humbling. I will say even it's humiliating for the false ego. If you enter in contact with real love, that's killing for the false ego. Sometimes we think, okay, we'll kill the false ego by smashing us, speaking badly, and the most effective way of dissolving the false ego is gaining awareness of how unconditionally loved you already are. The ego is absolutely dismantled at that point. It's like, what to do here, right? It's another language, another dimension altogether. So we are invited, no? I'm reflecting on this, just on this first quote of Prabhupada, right? Like everything about Krishna is ever fresh, ever new, ever evolving. His grace is ever fresh. His love is ever new, which means he already loves you, and he loves you even more now and even more in a few seconds and later and tomorrow. It cannot stop cannot but continue growing. Brahman, Brim, is always expanding. And I know that our minds and capacity to think about this are absolutely limited. But we need to use our faculties to try to think about this as much as we can till the point that smoke starts to come here. Yeah. We have to invest all our faculties to the point of making them collapse. And realizing, okay, now I need to resort to another method to contact Kriya, which is prayer and shelter and chanting and serving. But all our faculties, mental, rational, intellectual, we can use them to try to think as much as we can and realize, wow, this is too much. And that's why one name of Krishna is Adokshaya. He who is way beyond the reach and faculties of each one of our senses. So it's all too much. Mm-hmm. And it's ever evolving. Chaitanya Charitamrita says Krishna becomes more beautiful at every passing moment. We have no experience of someone becoming more beautiful at every passing moment. In my case, at every passing moment, more gray hair. No need to enter into details. No, most of you in the audience can empathize with me. And those who don't, just wait a few more years and you will understand this part of the class, which is still a mystery for you. That's why Krishna is called Nava Yovana Nitya Kishore. He remains an eternal adolescent. But adolescent, but plus maturity. And generally, adolescence and maturity are not seen quite put together. But he's eternally adolescent, and an adolescent which is wise and deep and profound and loving and ever evolving. For me, this is a wonderful idea, to think of the spiritual journey as always growing, always evolving. There's never a final point of arrival. Even if we say about, you have officially attained Golok Vrindavan, you're a liberated soul, bravo, ki jai, we all join in that. But even there is a constant expansion and growth and unfolding of more love. That's why in our tradition, we are not interested in mukti, in liberation. Okay, I'm conditioned now, I got beyond conditioning mukti. I'm there, eternal rest. That's not our goal. What's the goal in our tradition?
Ever expanding bliss.
Okay, bhakti, prem, ever expanding bliss. Thanks for the brainstorming, heart storming. Yeah, all those things are one and the same, right? We could say the goal of our life is bhakti. We practice bhakti. And what's the goal of bhakti? bhakti. Oops. So, as I write in my book, if I'm practicing bhakti and the goal of my practice of bhakti is bhakti, I already reached my goal. Because I'm already doing what I want to do forever. So in that sense, I'm already in eternity. And in that sense, that's why scripture said devotee doesn't care for liberation. Because bhakti is a post-liberated state. It's so much beyond liberation that you don't even think about it. Because you're already doing what you want to do in eternity. Like every time we have a retreat with different devotees, I tell them, okay, hopefully in these days we have a glimpse of eternity, which will mean that whenever we are in kirtan or wherever we are sharing heart to heart, we have this experience of, oh, I could be doing this forever. I hope you all have had that in some moment, I see myself doing this for eternity. So there you have a glimpse of actual eternity. So we are very fortunate because we are already doing that. Like once someone asked Srila Prabhupada, what's the fruit of chanting Hare Krishna? And he said that you will be able to chant more Hare Krishna. So Bhagavatam says the same, Bhaktya Sanjataya Bhaktya. Bhakti comes from Bhakti, and Bhakti goes to Bhakti. So we may call about sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, prema bhakti, but it's always bhakti. Bhakti, 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 bhakti. And when you learn to love fully, perfectly, you realize that in one sense, paradoxically, you can never love fully and perfectly because you can always love more fully and more perfectly. Like Rupa Goswami, right? He says, Krishna in Dwarka is Purna, complete. Krishna in Mathura is Purnatara, more complete. Krishna in Vrindavan is Purnatama, most complete. It's always complete. But there are then degrees of completeness, degrees of perfection. And there is no end. So I'm saying all this also because many times I've seen practitioners, devotees, and I'm not saying I've been an exception to that rule, that sometimes we become a little bit like overly concerned, or should I say, obsessed with like goal-oriented practice. Like I'm here and I have to reach there. Once I reach there, I'm done, I'm in, I'm safe, whatever. So everything becomes a thing that instead I don't want to be here, I should not be here, but I should be there until I get there. Whatever apart from there is not so good. And many times we stop appreciating whatever is here and now, right here, right now. As we say, right here, right now, we are doing what we want to do forever. At least I see myself sharing with you like we are doing now and singing like we were singing with Javi. I see myself doing that forever. I have no problem being coexisting with all of you in eternity. We may have our difference of opinion. We can deal that in Samishta Goshti, no problem. But better we learn to do that, because if not, that will be torture in eternity. So we are here to train those muscles. But my point is that, no, right? Sometimes we became so concerned with I should be in a place where I'm not there yet, that I stop appreciating all the things that are already coming right here, right now. And the only way I will, in my opinion, the only way we will arrive to that goal is by first appreciating all the things that are coming to me in the here and now. And taking advantage of that properly and embracing them properly, and that will take me to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. And there is so much coming in the here and now. And Krishna tries to invite us to appreciate that, right? I mean, progress and advancement in spiritual life does not only mean like, I don't know, ecstatic tears and rolling on the ground and fainting and hearing the flute, or nothing against all of that. But sometimes we may have just going through difficult periods in our life and through what we may call crisis or whatever. And that can be equally powerful and equally an epiphany for growth and transformation than moments of great joy and ecstasy and celebration. It's all part of the same wholeness. No? I like that, his wholeness. It's a goal to attain. I'm not there yet, but yeah. Yeah, recently something like that caught my attention. That was very interesting. I mean, it has been always there, but there's those moments that that was always there. Rupa Goswami was saying how when you develop divine love, when you develop this capacity to love comprehensively, wholly, there are so many other emotions that are part of the divine love. And those emotions include things like anger and fear and suffering, even envy. He's mentioned there's a place for all that in a transcendental version of that. So that's a little bit like confusing. It's like, what? Envy also and anger, all this stuff that I'm being told to get rid of over here. And then when I reach over there and realize all the things still are there, but expressed in the context of love. So in other words, for me, the message is you don't need to cancel any of the emotions or any of the experiences you are going through. You just need to go through them in the context of love. Because if we develop some sort of rejection syndrome towards certain emotions, we may be even canceling our human faculties, emotional faculties, and become quite dysfunctional in the name of being transcendental. If we equate being transcendental with not feeling basically anything but ecstasy, good luck. Until unless I feel ecstasy, I will not allow myself any emotion other than that. Then you become emotionless, and that won't take you to ecstasy probably. And when you again study in detail the nature of ecstasy in the spiritual world, there is anger, there is fear, there is envy, there's all this spectrum of emotions. All of them find their proper way and place of expression in love. So bhakti is not about canceling anything. Bhakti is about adding bhakti to everything. Krishna says, from all secret things I'm silent. So that's why I allow some silence in between also. So anyhow, I wanted just to share some thoughts in connection to this idea of the ever-evolvingness of the Absolute, which I know it can be an unsettling idea also, right? Like someone who is in constant evolution, where's the fixity, the changelessness? And that's also there, just to balance my presentation. I'm not just here saying Krishna is always evolving and there's nothing stable about him. We need stability because we have enough instability in our lives. And now comes Swami Padmanabha and says, and Krishna is always changing. I thought, oh my gosh, I need something to hold on to. So Krishna, in one sense, there's things that never change about Krishna. Of course, Krishna is always Krishna. Krishna is always love. Krishna is always compassionate and merciful, and all the things that we need as a foundation for security and trust and confidence and faith. But on that foundation, all those qualities that he never stopped being those things always change in the sense that he becomes all the more those things. Follow my point? Something that never changed about Krishna is that he's always compassionate. But something that always changed about Krishna is that he becomes all the more compassionate at every moment. So there's something that doesn't change. On that foundation, that thing that never changes expands. So it's paradoxical, and we need to accommodate this. Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he gives 64 qualities of Krishna. One is he's changeless. Then 2 qualities after he says he's ever new and fresh. Welcome to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Achintya Bhed Abhed Tattva. That's our metaphysics, right? Reality is paradoxically one and different and the same. Again, our brain goes like, no, one or the same. No, it's one or and the same at the same time. Both and, not either or. So we are invited onto an adventure, right? Krishna consciousness is an adventure. It has to remain an adventure. There is enough certainty, there is enough security for us to hold it. Krishna is an ocean of mercy. We can rest upon that all the time we need. No? Like Sharanagati, surrender means Rakshishati Vishva Sogoptritvi Varana. Trust that Krishna is protecting you, that Krishna is maintaining you. You can rest upon that truth forever. That's unmovable. But that's always growing and increasing. He becomes more protective, more loving, more increasing. And he's inviting us to do the same. No? We should not underestimate the potential of our soul. We should not underestimate all that we can be. Many times we have quite a, how to say, miser notion about who we are. We just see ourselves like as small as we can, without being conscious of that, but we tend to put ourselves in boxes and basically amputate our potential. And there's so much potential to the soul, to the jiva. And that's not pride, not to say that. It's just acknowledging who we are. Like I always like to quote how Krishna speaks about the soul in the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, verse 29. The only thing he has to say after saying what the soul is not. Soul doesn't die, it's not burn, it's not this, it's not that. Okay, something positive about the soul, and he says, Acharya, Acharya, Acharya. You are amazing, you are amazing, you are amazing. And he himself is amazed at the amazingness of the soul. Krishna is not amazed by so easily, I mean, in the sense that if he's amazed by something, that must be amazing. So Krishna is glimpsing on each one of us and saying, you are amazing. 3 times, just to make his case. You're amazing, amazing, amazing. So I always say, we're walking by the street and someone tells us you're amazing 3 times, I'm marrying that person in 5 minutes. And nobody tells me that even once. You're telling me that 3 times? That person happens to be the most important person. So the soul is amazing, which means we are amazing, which means you can rightfully so look in the mirror and say, I am amazing. Without being proud about it, because I'm amazing, but I'm not my own creation. I happen to be amazing. So what to do with my amazingness? That's the question. That's a daily question that hopefully gives you some purpose when you open your eyes from bed every morning. Okay, what to do with my amazingness today? I'm being serious. It's important. I mean, we can smile about that because it's good news. It's beautiful. But sometimes the great tragedy is that many times those good news, we live our lives as if that's not existing, basically. We are infinitely loved by Krishna. The soul is a unit of amazing potential. If we don't keep this good news present in our daily life, the day may pass, the week may pass, the month, the year, the life, and not aware of that. So to become Krishna conscious means to be conscious not only of Krishna as a person, but also to be conscious of how Krishna is seeing us, how Krishna is seeing the amazingness of the soul, how Krishna is feeling for us, how Krishna is loving us unconditionally. That also means to be Krishna conscious, not just to know that there's some guy called Krishna. Okay, I'm Krishna conscious now. And he's blue, pick up feather, flute, I'm checking all the boxes, Krishna conscious. Yes, but what's all that? Which are the implications of all that? What's behind the flute call? Why he's playing the flute? What drives him to play the flute? Can you hear your name included in the flute call? Because he's calling you as well. Right. So yeah, we are receiving this invitation on a daily basis. As we always see, the altar opens. Krishna is still always playing the flute. He doesn't lose hope on us. And like, oh my gosh, I'm calling you from lifetimes, and you still don't pay attention to it. You never will see Krishna altar open, and he's like, I'm tired to be like this. No, the arms get a little stifled. You don't respond. You'll never get a inbox message from Paramatma saying, I'm fed up with you inside your heart. So much nonsense for so long. Find yourself another Paramatma, please. I'm tired of waiting. Oh, no, that's not happening. Not to abuse. No, we know he will be there, so he can wait. He's patient. Not to abuse that, to be humbled by that, and to try to, not out of guilt, not out of toxic shame, but out of involved heart that realizes, oh, I've been waited, and I've been accompanied, and I've been loved for time without beginning. And now I'm starting to awaken to that reality. So how to respond to that? That's the only, at one point of our journey, we will only have one question, which is how to give back to so much that I've received. First, we may need to become aware of how much we are receiving. And then at one point, the only question is how to return embrace. In Sanskrit, that's the word for servant, kinkara. Mahaprabhu says in Shikshastakam, Ayinanda tanuya kinkara. Kimkara. Kim means what, kara means to do. Kimkara means what to do. What can I do? How can I serve you? That's the only question a kinkara has. How to serve you. Because a real servant is already aware so much has come to my life. And that's why we say bhakti is its own goal, and a devotee is concerned with loving and serving. But again, for that we need a firm foundation of how much we are already receiving. Because if not, we will start to serve and give from the wrong place with the wrong motivations, out of emptiness, trying to earn, trying to deserve, trying to impress, trying to fit. So first we need to know, you don't need to fit in. You don't need to impress Krishna. He already loves you. You already belong. So then why to serve? Why I'm doing all that stuff? To love him back. Out of gratitude, out of a melted heart. So that's transformational. Bhakti is transformational. Bhakti is not transactional. Of course, in the beginning, we may begin our spiritual journey in more transactional terms. Doing some business, some Vaisya Lila with Krishna there. You give me this, I give you that. If I do this, I receive that. Still the calculator is there, calculator machine. We have to begin somewhere, that's fine. Krishna accepts that in the Gita, Artha Jignasa Artharti Gyanicha. Some people come to me for money, for relief of suffering, for knowledge, for stuff. And some people come for me. A few. He says that with an air of, well, yeah, a few come for me, interested in me. Most people come interested in what I can give to them. But I welcome them. We have to begin somewhere. Akama sarvokama va moksha kama udharaditi brena bhakti yogena jayate purushampara. Yesterday we quoted that verse with Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj. Krishna says, Akama sarvokama va moksha kama. Whether you have akama, you have no desires whatsoever. Sarvakama, whether you have all the desires in the world. Moksha kama, whether you have only one desire, moksha. Whatever you may be in between all those possibilities, just come to me. Krishna is inviting, giving the open invitation. Don't think that first you have to become like this or like that and then come to me. From whatever you are, approach me with the sincerity you have. Again, Krishna is not interested in us impressing him, showing something we are not. I mean, he can see way beyond all the masks that sometimes we are so expert at putting. And most of those masks are many times religious masks. And Krishna does not care for any of that. Again, the conclusion of the Gita is Sarva Dharmam Parityaja. All religion, all this sense of religion, which is actually masks in the name of religion, Parityaja, utterly rejected. Throw them out of the window. Mamekam Sharanam Braja. Come to me alone exclusively, intimately, personally. So that's the invitation of bhakti, right? A very honest, sincere approach. From wherever we are, acknowledging our situation with sincerity, with wholeness, and allowing Krishna to meet us where we are. Not thinking that only when I reach this particular platform, then Krishna will be able to meet with me. No. Why we are limiting the unlimited? He has the capacity, as we were talking the other day about Mahaprabhu, as the highest of the highest. But the highest of the highest also is the deepest. So the highest is the one who gets to the bottom. So no matter how falling I may be, the highest has the capacity to extend to the bottom. So Krishna has a willingness and capacity to meet us where we are. We have to allow that to happen. We have to trust that we can be met by God's unconditional love. Wherever we are, we will be accepted if we are honest and sincere. A few days ago, 2 days ago, I think, we went to Sriva Sangam. All of you know Sriva Sangam probably. So this is a place where every night Mahaprabhu and his associates perform Rasa Sankirtan, which is the parallel to the Rasa Lila in Navadvip. The Rasa Lila of Krishna in the Gopis in Vrindavan has its parallel in the Rasa Sankirtan of Mahaprabhu and his companions at Sriva Sangam. So we were talking how some people try to enter the Sankirtan of Mahaprabhu at night, but without being fully honest. They were trying to deserve the entrance, like this Brahmin who say, I only drink milk, so I'm very sattvic. I think I should be allowed entrance here. Mahaprabhu said, no, that's not the currency to enter here. It's not about being pure materially, eating only hyper sattvic stuff. It's having the heart in the right place. You can drink only milk and become the proudest person in the village because I eat only milk products. And then we had Srivas Thakur's mother-in-law. She was hiding behind the curtains to peek at the Rasa Sankirtan. So she was hiding. So Mahaprabhu said, please take her out. You cannot access this level of intimacy by hiding. No. So Krishna consciousness is not to hide. You shouldn't become a mask. We already are carrying our mask from before. And unfortunately, sometimes we end up putting further masks after joining a spiritual practice. That's not the fault of the process. It's just how we misread the practice. That's why our acharyas will say there are anarthas that come after you start practicing bhakti. Bhakti-yuta anartha. It's not that bhakti brings anarthas, but misread bhakti brings anarthas. There may be anarthas you didn't have before practicing bhakti. So we don't want to practice bhakti to increase our anarthas. But it can happen. So we have to be very careful of how to show up in the most sincere way. That's why in the Rasa Lila, going back to the Rasa Lila and the Sankirtan in Srivasangam, we have the Rasa Lila in the Bhagavatam, which is the peak of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But before the Rasa Lila, this beautiful celebration of life through dance and song, intimacy, affection. Before the Rasa Lila, which Lila we have? Gopi Bastra Arana Lila. The Lila where Krishna steals the clothes of the gopis, which is a Lila which speaks a lot about nakedness. But nakedness in terms of inner nakedness. Krishna is taking all the cloths and telling the gopis, you want the cloths? He's on top of the tree. The gopis are all naked, bathing with the Jamuna water in winter in Vrindavan. That's cold. And they say, give our clothes back. Krishna says, yeah, of course, I will give them back. He's on top of the tree. So they start to go out the water, but covering their intimate parts. And they are in a queue in front of Krishna. Krishna says, okay, but you have committed an offense to Yamuna Devi by bathing naked. So you have to beg forgiveness. And for that, you have to offer pranam. You have to put your 2 hands on top of your head. So Krishna wants to appreciate the full nakedness of the gopis. But again, not in any degraded way, but just the teaching, I will say for us, is Krishna wants to see us fully naked, fully transparent, fully sincere. Not coming to him afraid and covering, putting masks. Like Krishna calling us and we are like, yes, Krishna? No, that doesn't facilitate intimacy. Right? So he says, no, take all that. Okay. So before the Rasa Lila, this beautiful festival of union and communion, there's the festival of nakedness and vulnerability, one says, because it's very vulnerable to tear apart all the masks and here I am. But that's something we have to go through if we want to get to the highest level of divine communion. So we are all invited to practice that in Sadhu Sangha, revealing our hearts in Guhyama Kyati Prichati, Rupa Goswami will say, sharing our hearts with each other, learning to trust each other, learning to accept each other, learning to listen to one another. That's not an easy one. Learn to listen. Listen doesn't mean only like, I don't want to downplay what you are doing right now. I trust you are listening now. But listening to one another, sitting, listening, receiving the person unconditionally, non-judgmental, not putting the person in boxes. That's Shravan 2.0, so to say. Because I can sit and you can tell me something and I'm like, but inside my mind I'm like putting you and labeling you, branding you, putting you in this box and this category. But sometimes we just need to listen. So all these are ways to to give and receive in a sincere way, in a vulnerable way. And all that is sadhu sangha as well. I like to conclude with one imaginary image that once someone asked Srila Bhakti Rakshakti Goswami Maharaj, and I've said this many times, but one more time. It's ever evolving, so every time I say it, it's new. Someone asked Srila Siddhar Maharaj, god brother of Srila Prabhupada, very dear friend of his. Someone asked him, what's sadhu sangha? And he referred to Napoleon. Very interesting Shastric reference. Right? Everyone was, he was a scholar of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He could have quoted hundreds of verses that can reply to the question, what's sadhu sangha? But he said, no, have you heard about the Napoleon chair? So not only Napoleon, but the Napoleon chair. So what's that? And what does that have to do with sadhu sangha? So he told the story, like once Napoleon was with his army in one place and it was snowing, It was very cold. They didn't have a place to stay at night, but they had to spend the night in that place. So if they fell asleep, fell to the ground, the snow, they could die, basically. So how to keep all my soldiers awake and alive during the night? So he devised this Napoleon chair. So he said, stand all of you in a circle, like one in front of the other, in a circle. And he said, now you sit all at the same time, like if you are going to sit in a chair. So you sit, and the man behind you is your chair, basically. And the man behind you is your chair, and you are being a chair for the man in front of you. So, of course, it may have required a few attempts. And we won't try this in practice if you're wondering. We don't want any accidents here. But eventually it worked, and everyone was sitting on someone, and someone was sitting on, everyone was giving support and receiving support simultaneously. So Srila Samaras gave that example as said, that's Sadhusanga. Interestingly. Very graphic way of referring what means to support and give support. It's always reciprocal. No? Like I always like to say, like I said to a few of you today when you saw me, and there's a Maharaj, I have to go to the ground, right? If not, you fast. That's what you've heard. No? So most people offer obeisances to me just because they don't want to be hungry the rest of the day. Let's be honest, guys. But of course, if someone offers obeisances, I offer obeisances back. Of course. And everyone, no, I don't know, what are you doing, Maharaj? It's like, why you are depriving me of reciprocity? I feel tempted to run and embrace the person. I like more embracing. I'm from South America, so we are. But okay, first go to the ground then. But it has to be reciprocal. It's always reciprocal. Like we were sharing today, let's conclude with this quote. Why not? I have to find it. This quote that I shared from Prabhupada today. Those who were today in the lecture will remind it. Okay, where it is. So this is a letter that Prabhupada sent to one of his disciples. It's an interesting one. I will suggest that you fasten your seatbelt. And Prabhupada tells to a disciple the following. You cannot survive without my mercy. So far, okay, standard statement. We will accept that. But then comes the other part of the sentence. And I cannot survive without your mercy. Here we have the guru talking to the disciple. Okay? You cannot survive without my mercy, and I cannot survive without your mercy. It is reciprocal. This is a mutual dependence based on love. That's what we call Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shockingly beautiful, right? Imagine a guru telling the disciple, I cannot survive without your mercy. What to do with that, right? It's moving, again, if you had any trace left of false ego, that dissolves, that makes all of that disappear. It's like, I'm melting, what to do with that? But Prabhupada has a point. He's saying it is reciprocal. It's never a one-way street. It's always giving and receiving, giving and receiving. Rupa Goswami says, Dadati pratigrinati guyamakiti prichati bhukti bojad. Giving gifts, receiving gifts. Giving heart, receiving heart. Giving prasad, receiving prasad. It's always giving, receiving. Mutual dependence based on love. Prabhupada will put it that way here. And that's Krishna consciousness. If so far you haven't found an enough convincingly charming definition of Krishna consciousness, I think today I provided one for you. Not me, Srila Prabhupada. So let's stay with that idea and go back to the original quote from Prabhupada that I share again, saying all of this is ever evolving, ever fresh. So this type of sweet, intimate, loving interactions are always are also ever evolving, ever new, ever fresh. So yeah, let's continue exploring this beautiful adventure called Krishna consciousness. The gratitude to all of you for being part of that. And hopefully, somehow or other, hopefully today we have another little glimpse of eternity. We all felt at some moment, oh, I could be doing this forever. And let's continue. This never ends. So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Sadhu Sangha ki jai. Gaur Premanandi.